Empire. The sports gambling content arm is reinventing itself.
You know, if you look up Caesars and boxing and you see the outdoor rings, outside Caesar's Palace, and then Evel Knievel jumping over, all the cars and trucks out front of the palace. Like, there's just this great legacy of what Caesars means.
That's Ken Fuchs, head of sports at Caesars Digital, where utility and rewards go hand in hand with attracting bettors. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Wild West of land-grabbing sports bettors continues as jurisdictions around the United States legalize sports betting. Promotions and advertising barrages have followed, but we are in a 2.0 of retention for places where we are in years 2 and 3 of gambling, and the team at Caesars is finding its path with name-brand broadcasters and offerings that go beyond just being a mobile betting provider. Our guest this week is Ken Fuchs, who's the head of sports at Caesars Digital. So let's catch up on the rollout of sports gambling nationwide and how that is evolving over time. Hey, Ken, how are you?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let me just start with just a couple of things that have been happening recently in your sphere. The NFL draft just did occur. Can you kind of talk about how Caesars got involved with the draft and how you're activating in and around the NFL these days?
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing week, right? We had the draft in Las Vegas for the first time, and who does live entertainment better than Caesars in Las Vegas and the NFL together, right? So when you think about all those drones flying over the strip with the red carpet and everything going on, it's pretty incredible. We had the draft theater where actually the draft takes place. The players walk on stage, shake the commissioner's hand, come off, do all their interviews, put on their hat. And anybody could come to that and show up and watch. And then we also have a draft experience where people could come with food and games and kind of one of a kind autograph opportunities. And Caesars has a presence there as well, Caesars Sportsbook. And then, for us, Caesars Sportsbook in Caesars Palace, we have a special setup at the link right by in that place, the promenade near the Ferris wheel, where you can actually bet. It's kind of a remote sports book. Almost think of it as like a food truck type sports betting opportunity. So it's really cool. There's just a ton of AV and planning that goes into it. NFL's a great partner. We're their official casino partner and a sports book partner as well. So it's been a lot of fun to plan for and see it get pulled off. Okay,
let's talk about sports gambling. We're still, I don't know, what inning are we in? 2, 3? I mean, a lot of jurisdictions have changed. A lot of them still haven't. So how do you guys kind of view where we are in America as sports gambling legalizes?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's not forget that Nevada is massive in sports betting. It's been that way for decades and mobile for over a decade in Nevada. So it has been obviously around. What happened in 2018 with the repeal of the federal law PASPA, which allowed states to one by one legalize on their own terms and regulations. So you've seen that happening on an accelerated basis. So, we're now in 23 states for sports betting. We have 17 of those states including the jurisdiction of Ontario, which just went live, are now mobile as well. So it's fast and furious. We just launched three new ones this past Q1 in winter, and we have several more that we think are going to come in the next 8 to 12 months as well.
So how do you guys think through, now that you've gone through it a number of times over the last few years when a jurisdiction changes, how do you think about customer acquisition and marketing and reaching out to get people involved with Caesars?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, when you think about Caesars, the brand is incredible in terms of its historical legacy around sports and what it's meant. When you think about some of the title fights, and if you look up Caesars and boxing and you see the outdoor rings, outside Caesars Palace, and then Evel Knievel jumping over, all the cars and trucks out front of the palace. Like, there's just this great legacy of what Caesars means, and of course we care a lot about live entertainment, and I think sports betting fits right into that. And so, for us, the rollout is really about kind of bringing together those two things, and it's really about having fun and being responsible around gaming. And I don't think anybody does that better than Caesars ultimately. And so, we leverage a lot of our own technology. We leverage Caesars Rewards. There's a lot that goes into it, but the fact is, when you look at, I think what people want out of a sports betting operator, we really provide the product and the access that I don't think anyone else can really match.
Boy, I mean, Evel Knievel was ridiculoly popular in his time, but in the social media era, oh man, what would he be now?
It's been pretty interesting,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So obviously there's a tremendous amount of competition in the marketplace. Can you kind of take me through how you guys see that and view that and attack that as you're trying to acquire customers?
Yeah, in a couple different ways. I mean, first, coming back to your question about branding, we don't just view this as here's a promotion, come to our app. I think it's really about telling the Caesars narrative and story. And when you look at our advertising with JB Smoove and the Mannings and Halle Berry, it really is about like that aspirational aspect of the brand, and how when you become part of Caesars, you are a Caesar. And the fact that you get all the experiences through Caesars Rewards with tickets and access to, our resorts, restaurants, as well as, promotions in the app. There's experiences that we can bring to this that no one else can based on who we are. So we start there, but then you also have to have great product, right? At the end of the day, people are coming to bet sports. So you got to make it really easy to get your bet down, get in, register, get your money in, find the thing you want to bet on, bet it, track it, and then be able to withdraw your money and then repeat. And for us, doing all those simple things really well and stringing them together end to end has been a huge focus for us, just the foundational aspect of that. And I think the fact that we own our own technology platform and we can innovate and iterate really, really quickly on the customer experience as we understand the U.S. market, and that it's all local, it's all here in the U.S., allows us to really move very quickly to build something that is continually getting better and continually meeting the needs that we see. And so it allows us to unlock things like, for Major League Baseball betting the next batter up, what's he going to do? Or for the NFL, what is the next drive? What's going to happen? Allows us to add a lot of interesting bets based on what the customer asks us for in real time. So, I think the fact that we're building this bespoke, controlling the tech, controlling the product with a great brand, with Caesars Rewards, with great access in all these states is something that really is hard to match.
Has there been anything along the way here that you've been surprised by that bettors and people who are involved, what they want? Are you surprised by any of it?
That's a great question. I think it is the appetite for live betting. Like I think you see this very different from the UK. This understanding of fantasy sports, I think, really steeped the sports bettor in data and stats and following players. So there's a lot of interest in player props and live in-game betting, because that's how people have followed sports here for a long time in terms of having a team for fantasy and then watching those players play on Sunday across all the games. For me, I think it's really seeing how fast that's accelerated as people get comfortable with the vernacular and getting into betting. And then I think the second thing is, the partnership with all the leagues and teams, right? Like, I think there's a halo effect in terms of accelerating the industry, because, we have partnerships with all these leagues, and they've really leaned into sports betting as they understand that a regulated environment where you shine a light on this industry and you can build it up in the right ways is something that, builds their business and builds ours at the same time. So It's been really wonderful partnering with all the leagues around.
I wanted to ask about that with a league partnership or a team partnership or whatever comes down the road. Why to you that matters to have that relationship with the team or the league itself?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is they have great data. So we use a lot of their data that informs our pricing. It allows us to offer different types of products effectively. So that's one. Two is, the leagues have unique experiences that we can work together on. So, for example, we sent, a lucky customer to the Super Bowl on a private jet with a stay, at Caesars Palace the night before, the night after, working with the NFL. Like those are things that are once in a lifetime experiences that only we can do, and in Madison Square Garden, we might send a few customers to skate on the ice during morning practice. I think that through our relationship with the Rangers. So when you look at the leagues and teams, they just have assets that no one else does. And when you think about allowing our customers to experience that in a really unique way, it really brings a lot of value. And then, lastly, they have, deep databases of season ticket holders and fans, and they're very passionate about their teams. And so combining what we can offer with their databases is another way for us to acquire customers that we know are potentially interested in sports betting.
So what I'm hearing from you a little bit here is, like, initially when you see a lot of the advertising and marketing for all of the different groups that are trying to acquire customers, it feels very transactional. We'll offer you this, but we want you to bet on that, and then these will happen. It sounds like your mission partially is that, and partially is to be less transactional. You want to offer things that would invite people to properties, that would incentivize them in different ways. Has that kind of been a strategy for Caesars?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you become a Caesars customer, not a Caesars Digital or Caesars Sportsbook customer. And so the way that works is when you sign up, you get a Caesars reward number, unless you already have one, which 60 million people do, actually. And when you have that, every time you bet, whether you win or lose, based on the amount you potentially win from that bet, you earn rewards credits. And then those rewards credits can be translated into free bets, but they can also be translated into, experiences, all the things that Caesars Rewards offers across our properties, all over the country. And so, for us, I think it's really not just about, hey, are you coming in and betting sports? We want to do that better than anybody else, and we're investing a lot to make that best in class. But it really is you're part of the Caesars experience when you play with us, and that has value across all of our locations and all of the different things you can do with Caesars, in all of our places in the U.S.
All right, let's talk about content a little bit and how you see that moving forward. My old colleague from ESPN, Trey Wingo, is working with you all now and producing a tremendous amount of content for you. There are probably others that I'm not recalling at the moment that I've worked with through the years that are making content for you all. How do you see that arm as a value add for Caesars and essentially what is a gambling company?
Yeah, it fills a number of needs for us. One, sports betting is fun. So, people love the stories behind it. They love access to data and interesting information to inform their decisions. And so you can do that through great content and bringing context to life around the games or the draft and what's happening on the pitch or the field in terms of how you think about, okay, I'm going to make this bet or I want to make this decision. I feel really good about it, and this content validates it. It's also educational, right? You have something that is fairly new to a lot of people with, a whole glossary of terms and ways of betting and different things to try. And so I think, leveraging our talent, Trey and Rachel and Kenny Mayne, in ways to explain things and provide examples in fun ways is another way that we use that content. And then look, at the end of the day, we're all sports fans, right? And like the storylines, whether you're betting or not betting, are just continual and amazing. And there's always something new, and it's a passion for a lot of people. And so, they help us bring that to life. And if, for us, our brand is really about around that experience and entertainment and information, and they help convey that.
Where do you think it's going? Do you believe there will be pregame shows that are Caesars created? Do you believe this is ancillary content that finds its way onto the internet? How do you kind of see the vertical growing?
Yeah, I think it grows in a variety of ways. So a good example is we work with ESPN, and they've got their studio in Las Vegas that faces Caesars Palace. They do a daily show called The Daily Wager,
yep.
Which we contribute a lot of information and talent to. It's a dedicated show to sports betting, on the biggest sports network in the country. You've got CBS Sports, where we have a relationship with their HQ product, where they cover it quite a bit. And they have Sportsline, which is a dedicated subscription product, all content tied to sports betting. For us, obviously social is a big part of our distribution strategy. In this day and age, You don't necessarily have to have a destination where people come. But of course, we have our sports books and we have the app, but it really is about pushing it out on social media and leveraging every platform in a different way based on the type of customers that you find on those platforms and the type of content that works. And so, we think a lot about, the content we create, whether video or animated or audio, and then, which platform we're leveraging and pushing it to. But, we use all of them and we think about it in a distributed way for content.
I want to ask you about a specific type of content provider. Recently, ESPN re-signed Adam Schefter, Adrian Wojnarowski, who are their major newsmakers. There was a lot of rumors that one of the companies like yours, maybe not specifically yours, would try to get them to come and work for them. What's your opinion of having a literal newsmaker, someone who is breaking news in sports? Would that matter to your growing content arm?
It depends how you use it, right? I know Woj. I worked with him at Yahoo Sports. He's amazing in terms of his ability to sniff out things that are happening in the NBA. I think if their goal as journalists is to break news for the general public and to do that in an accurate way, a quick way, and an informational way, that's fulfilling. For a sports betting operator, you would like as much access to information as well because you're trying to create as accurate pricing and odds as you can. So while it probably is helpful, I think the goal of those types of writers, journalists is really about, feeding their fans and their public information as they learn stories. And so, I think it would be interesting if a sports operator hired one of them, right? Because at what point are you serving cross purposes where you want some information that may not be public, but you're really hiring these guys to push information out? But they do an amazing job. I mean, it's incredible during the NBA draft. It was, sitting with Woj and watching him break every pick before it was announced on TV. They're incredible around that. But I do think that there is a role for content and understanding things like injuries, before they break on a wider basis. And I think all of us invest in resources that help us understand what's happening in given markets as fast as we can, because at the end of the day, we're trying to provide accuracy in our odds and our pricing.
Yep. On that line, I'm curious what your position is on transparency by leagues and teams about injuries themselves. Take the case of the NHL, where they don't even reveal what the injury is, and they don't even give a time frame for how long an injury may keep somebody out. There are other leagues that give a little more information than that. And in the case of the NFL, they have streamlined injury reports that come out. And I guess we could argue the veracity of them, but they're there and they seem to be more informational. How do you see this developing with the relationship now that sports betting operators are literally working with leagues and this information is imperative? How do you see those two things kind of living in together?
Yeah, the more transparency, the better. I mean, it's not just for us, right? It's for fans too, because they might be playing fantasy sports and they're trying to decide who to start. For sports betting, we want to have the ability to bet as markets as soon as possible, and we want to give people the opportunity to bet those as well. And if you don't have full information, then sometimes you have to wait, until day of or hours before, or pull down markets until you have more certainty about it. And so, the more transparency we have, the better customer experience it is and better fan experience it is. And so, I think I look at it through that lens, which is, transparency helps us, but at the end of the day, they're really there to serve their fans. And so more transparency, I think, helps fans make decisions around all the ways that they engage in players and data, whether it's sports betting, fantasy, or simply, what to watch. And so, I would hope that it's hard, right, in this day and age, because injuries it is not black and white always in terms of, the severity or whether someone can play or not. Sometimes they don't know until game time. And so we have to respect that process. But I think the more information you can push out there, the better.
All right, last thing, Ken, what do you guys have coming up? What kind of initiatives can people look for from Caesars and Caesars Entertainment?
Baseball just started, and so for us, there's a lot of fun stuff you can look at in our baseball betting. You've got same game parlays where you can bet on players and your favorite team kind of all in one parlay, which is a lot of fun. You can bet the first inning, you can bet the ninth inning. So I think baseball is a really fun way to bet because you don't have to just bet the whole game. You can chunk it up. It's really structured. Golf is obviously kicking in high gear with Tiger a couple of weeks ago and moving to the next tournament. And I think you'll see from us some interesting golf products come out this year. And then, we're always thinking about NFL. And so there's a number of interesting new markets that we'll offer going to the fall. And then we're always innovating on the app in terms of the experience and adding more and more to our rewards products so that when you come in, you're a Caesar customer, you get a lot of benefit from it, not just the sports betting piece of it, which is primary, but also the secondary aspect of loyalty and making sure that we value you as a customer and that you can see that in everything we offer you through Caesars Rewards.
Ken Fuchs is the head of sports at Caesars Digital. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Brad. Great to be on.
On the next Future Sport podcast, we'll dip back into the NFT space with one of the forward thinkers.
The fact that collectibles kind of became the thing that, got people interested and excited, I think it's very logical, right? It takes an experience that we all have in the real world, and it applies it to, new technology that creates ownership in the digital world. So, it doesn't surprise me necessarily. I think it's more of like, it was more a question of like when people will sort of discover this idea of digital ownership and assigning value in the digital world.
That's Gagan Palrecha, CEO of NFT Star and the former vice president at Dapper Labs that changed the sports collectible marketplace with NBA Top Shot. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein.